morning. My name is Shelby, and I'm on staff here at the Grove. And this month is our Serve the World month, and personally, it's one of my favorites. We get to highlight everything we do missionally, both locally and globally, and it's so amazing to be a part of a church that is so missional and gives us a chance to get involved. And so every week of this month, we have a different theme and a different focus. And the focus this weekend is women empowerment. And this is something, as a woman, is so dear to my heart, and I'm so thankful to be a part of a church that takes it seriously and that really works to empower women here locally and globally. And so to kick off this morning, I just want to share a piece of my heart with you regarding women empowerment. Our voices are a powerful tool to be used not only for ourselves, but for others. I realized recently I have taken my own voice for granted. 2 years ago, I traveled to Malawi, Africa for the first time, and in that experience, my ears were open to voices that were not allowed to be heard. The village and their chiefs welcomed us with a ceremony. I noticed out of the many chiefs, only a couple were women, and I wondered why. As the ceremony continued, off to the side, I saw a group of young girls holding posters. Then in silence, they proudly walked in front of their chiefs and their village, holding signs that had phrases like, "Education is my right," and "You will not marry me." What I didn't understand in that moment was that the girls in this village were forced to be married at the age of 12 or 13 by men 3 times their age. My emotions began to stir. I felt my heart beating out of my chest for those girls, and I wanted so badly to walk with them, stand next to them, and declare with them that they have a voice in this world. But I stayed where I was, with tears streaming down my face. It wasn't until later that I was told how big that moment was for those girls to stand in front of their village and in front of their leaders. You see, these girls have lived in a world where their voices have been silenced, but their act of bravery that day made me not want to stay silent anymore. To the girls around the world who are fighting for your voice, we are listening. Know that you are loved and you are valued and you are empowered. But most importantly, know that we hear you. Thank you.
I think most of you have heard of Her Royal Highness, Duchess of Sussex, Meghan. Meghan used to be known just as Meghan Markle. Now she's Her Royal Highness. When Meghan Markle was just 11 years old, Procter & Gamble ran a television ad about dishwashing soap. And the ad said, "Women all over America are fighting dirty pots and pans." And 11-year-old Meghan was like, "Well, how about men? Men don't fight dirty pots and pans?" And then she said she got to school, and there were 2 boys that were talking about the ad, and they were teasing her, and they said, "Yeah, Meghan, that's where women belong, in the kitchen." Well, now she'd had enough. So 11-year-old, soon to be Her Royal Highness, went home and wrote 2 letters. The first one she sent to Procter & Gamble to share a piece of her mind. And the second letter she sent to the First Lady of the United States. 2 weeks later, they both answered. And Procter & Gamble said, "Thank you for opening our eyes. We have changed the ad." From that day on, the ad now said, "People all over America are fighting dirty pots and pans." Yeah, let's applaud that. That's an 11-year-old girl that had had enough. And I share that to say that Meghan, from that day on, has given her life to being a voice for women and empowering women. Recently, she had the chance to speak at the United Nations. And in her talk to the United Nations, she said this. She said, "Women need a seat at the table." And we have this on the screen. They need an invitation to be seated there. And in some cases where this is not available, well, then you know what? They need to create their own table. The way we change things, in my opinion, is to mobilize girls and women to see their value as leaders. It is said that girls with dreams become women with visions. May we empower each other to carry out such visions. That's what Meghan Markle says. And Meghan Markle is not just sharing her opinion. What she says is also a biblical position. And this morning, as we have our first Empower Women weekend at the Grove, to lift up and to honor women and to remind all of us about what Scripture says, I want to share as we start where my heart is on this. We have a brilliant speaker from Tanzania, Kellen Nsima, who will be sharing later. But let me share as your pastor why this is so important to us. And I'll start with the book of Genesis. Our grounding for empowering women starts on the first page of the Bible. In Genesis chapter 1, we read this in verse 27. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he made them. This statement is about the equality of both men and women and how all people are made in the image of God. I hadn't thought much about this idea growing up. I never thought about it in college. But when I started my PhD program, they gave us a handbook at Trinity Divinity School. And then I had professors like Dr. Perry Downs and Dr. Linda Canal who said, you better know this page on the handbook as you write your dissertations. It's the school's statement on gender references in speech and writing. I want to share it with you. It stuck with me for years. Here's how it reads. In recognition of the divine act of creation, whereby the Imago Dei has been equally given to women and men, the faculty of Trinity Graduate School offers the following statement on gender references in speech and writing. We do this as a demonstration of the reality of our belief in the Imago Dei and its example of our serious desire to see all men and women treated with the worth and value with which they were both invested since the creation of the world. And we recognize that God has given his gifts to both men and women in the body of Christ. Therefore, as we teach in class, speak in the pulpit, or write our books and articles, we commit ourselves before God to be sensitive about the presence and needs of both sexes and the forms of address that will represent both genders, then unthinkingly adopt potentially offensive conventions of speech. Our decision is based on the fact that God's gift of the Imago Dei to both women and men has forever settled the question of their equal worth and value and meaningfulness as persons. That statement is powerful and a reminder that we don't just have a moral responsibility to empower women, we have a biblical responsibility. Growing up, I don't think I recognized or noticed the pushing down of women because in my life I was surrounded all the years growing up by many strong women who were leaders. I'll start with my own mother. When I was 5 years old, we moved to the booming city of Picayune, Mississippi, about maybe 3,000 people. And my dad started to pastor a church there. And my mother, he announced, would be leading the choir. When he pastored in California and Washington, she was always a choir director. So she showed up, my mother showed up for the first choir practice. And when she did, she started to take the choir through the first piece they were working on, and she noticed that the organist, the organ player, was just sitting there with his arms crossed, and he wasn't playing. So she said, "Why aren't you playing?" And he said, "Because you should not be our choir director." And she was like, "Why do you say I shouldn't be your choir director?" He said, "Because you are a woman, and we've only had men as our choir directors." She said, "Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but now, from today on, I'm your choir director." He said, "Well, then I quit." She said, "Then go ahead and quit." And so he walked out, and she said the music sounded so much better without the organ. They never did replace him. She said he made it sound like a funeral. That's my mother. At 6 years old, we moved to Africa, where Liberia became my home. And on the mission where we lived, the director of the mission was an 80-year-old African-American woman from Texas. Her name was Mother George, and Mother George was in charge, and she was a phenomenal leader. In the big town, the village next to us, it was called Plan de Balabo, and Plan de Balabo, the chief was a woman by the name of Chief Jarba. We knew as kids, when you're around her, you say, "Yes, ma'am," and you stay clear because you don't want to mess up around Chief Jarba. And then Liberia went through 19 years of civil war. After the Civil War, they held their first election in 20 years, and the country elected a woman by the name of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to be not just their president, but the first female president on the continent of Africa, the first head of state. And for 10 years, President Johnson led Liberia towards peace and prosperity. And she was so hard on corruption that all over the continent now they call her the Iron Lady of Africa. And right now, on our African Bible College in Malawi, we have a graduate of the college who earned her PhD, is now back and serving as the president of the university. Her name is Dr. Maggie Matumbo, and she is a fantastic leader. Those are the leaders that I've known. But the truth is, growing up, I may have missed that women were being pushed down. But today in 2018, women all over the world are still being held down and pushed down. Globally, there is still a marginalization of women. I'll share a few quick examples with you. For example, in Pakistan, girls, before they turn 15 years old, it's very common for them to marry a much older man. Honor killings are still common in Pakistan. In Thailand, girls as young as 6 and 7 and 8 years old are being sold. In Pakistan, the women still, in most regions, still have to wear the full face burqa. And I ask, why can't men, or why don't men, if you're going to make your wives do that? Women have no legal rights in Afghanistan. In Saudi Arabia, women can't leave home without a male chaperone, someone to watch them. Just 4 months ago, 2018 in June, women were given the right to drive in Saudi Arabia. One woman, the first day that she drove in June, she puts this on Twitter: "I feel as free as a bird today." Finally, 2018. In Brazil, every 15 seconds a woman is attacked. In Nigeria, there are hundreds of thousands of girls, not thousands, hundreds of thousands of girls up in the north who the Boko Haram has banned from getting an education. Now, how about our own country? Maybe in Chandler and Gilbert, you feel like, well, maybe there is no oppression. In our country, the largest evangelical Christian denomination has banned women from becoming pastors. In fact, just on Tuesday this week, I was speaking at a college in their chapel service to the student body in another state. And after I spoke in chapel, I was in the cafeteria with some of the faculty and some students having lunch. And they started to tell me about their church that some of them attended. It was the largest and the oldest church in their city. And then one of them with pride said, "Yes, last year we brought in our first woman pastor." And I said, "That's amazing. That's fantastic." But I said, "I thought your denomination did not allow women to be pastors." And they answered and said, "Yeah, they kicked us out the next week. But we kept our pastor." But that's still happening. And I share all of that to say we can change that. And the Bible gives us a different position on this. I think many of us, when we see the global oppression and marginalization of women, we think, well, it's a sad inevitable. There's not much we can do about it. I want to say, no, we can change that. You can change that. It doesn't have to be that way. When you look at Scripture, in my opinion, the Bible gives us a strong precedent and grounding for empowering women. I have a list of examples that I want to show you here. I'll start with Miriam, and this is just a few. Miriam was a prophetess and a worship leader. Deborah was a judge. Do you know, as a judge, today that would be like she was president, pope, and a 5-star general. She was in charge of everything as a judge. Esther saved her people from genocide. Huldah was the leader of the prophets. Phoebe was a deacon. Priscilla was a teacher and co-worker with Paul. We read Junia was an apostle. Some translators and translations changed her name to Junius to make her a male, but that's wrong. The Bible in Romans says Junia was an apostle. The Bible shows us great examples of women who are leaders. When we read about Jesus in the New Testament, especially in the Gospels, we read that Jesus was always honoring and lifting up women. Jesus valued women, particularly in his day when women were oppressed and silenced. Jesus was revolutionary in the way that he treated women. He valued them. He broke all of the social norms in the way that he interacted with women. For example, he listened to women. If you remember in John chapter 4, he's at a well and a woman comes and he starts to engage her and ask her about her story. And she says, "Why are you talking to me? I'm a woman and a foreigner at that." And then we read his disciples come and they go, "Oh no, he's talking to a woman." You read this, but none of them would say anything because they knew he was a rule breaker and a chain breaker. That's who Jesus was. Not only did he listen to women, I feel like Jesus honored women. And we also read that a bent over woman comes to Jesus and she can't straighten up for years and years. And he sees her and he says this, "Daughter of Abraham." Nobody said daughter of Abraham. They said son of Abraham. Everyone said son, but he says daughter of Abraham. He honored women. He defended women. John chapter 8, we read that he walks into this town of Capernaum. And a gang of men have surrounded a woman, and they are about to stone her. And he steps into the stoning circle, and he says, "Not today. This is not happening on my watch." And he sends them home. Jesus always lifted up women. And I share all that to say that as followers of Jesus Christ, people who believe in God, then today is our day. It's your day and it's my day to begin to lift up and empower women. Now is the time for us to lead the way. I think globally there has been a low view of women, and that needs to change. And I think it's the low view of women that has caused us to be silent on the poor treatment of women everywhere. And silence is a form of condoning. You heard Shelby talk about her silence, and now that needs to change. That's a case for all of us. And I want to say to you today, as I finish, that if we really are believers of Jesus Christ, and if we really believe the Bible, then we must be people who start to empower women here around us and empower women globally and everywhere.
Go ahead and have a seat. In the brochure, if you open it up, you'll see Kellen Massima, one of the most amazing last names probably in the world. Msseemmaa. Phenomenal. She flew in from Tanzania on Friday and is flying back home tonight. She's been here over this weekend. I've had the amazing opportunity to get to know her. She grew up in Uganda, now lives in Tanzania, where she's the director of the Empowerment Girls Program for Convoy of Hope. And she's a teacher. And she's a person who walks the walk and talks the talk. And as a group of us had dinner with her last night, I asked her, I'm like, "Why are you here so short?" And she said, "I have to get home to my kids." I said, "How many kids do you have?" She said, "Well, I have 2 biological, but many more in the house." And I said, "How many more in the house?" And she said, "Well, there's 3 Lindas, there's 2 this." And she counted and got up to like 18 girls and 6 boys that live in their house. And they have a 3-bedroom house. And this is all on their own of kids they've taken in and support and parent and nurture. And it was just an amazing opportunity for me to get to know her. And so you are going to be blessed. So would you please welcome Kellen Massima.
Good morning. As you said, my name is Kellen Msema. I'm the director of Empowered Girls Program under Convoy of Hope. And Convoy of Hope is a faith-based, non-profit organization with a driving passion to feed the world through children's feeding initiatives, community outreaches, and disaster responses. I happen to work in Tanzania, East Africa, in a community where women are marginalized. Women are abused. Women are looked down on. They have no voice. And sometimes they have to struggle to put at least one meal on the table for their children. We work with girls who don't know their value because of culture and tradition, where you grow up being told that you're born to be someone's wife, you're born to be a mother. Your office is in the kitchen. You have no voice. You never talk back when a man speaks. And that girls are seen as a source of income, and your father is always waiting for you to grow up a little bit and marry you off so that he can get a dowry. And so today I want to tell you a little bit about my story, because I believe that my story is the story of so many girls and women that we work with in the community. I was born and raised in Uganda, East Africa, the firstborn of 6 children. My mother got pregnant while she was in school, and because she could not afford to take care of me, she married to a much older man and became her fourth wife. And some of you married your high school sweethearts or the love of your lives, but my mother married for food. And just like other women in our communities, you marry because of circumstances, but not because it's what you want. And because I was born out of wedlock, nobody really loved or cared about me. See, my mother was busy taking care of my younger siblings and pretty much forgot about me. She thought I was the cause of all her problems. And you see, in Africa, girls are seen as a source of income. So at an early age, my stepdad wanted to marry me off, but I refused. And this meant him not giving me the support that I needed as a child and the basic needs that I wanted. And I had no friends because most of the girls ridiculed me. They're like, you'll never find a husband because by the time you want to get married, you'll be too old. And I knew that the only way I was going to get out of this poverty and this hard situation I was in was through education. So I kept learning and working hard in school. My stepfather refused to pay for me, but through a series of miracles, I managed to make it and went through university and became a high school teacher. So after graduating from university, I moved to Tanzania to be with my husband, Daudi Msema, who also works for Convoy of Hope. And while working as a high school teacher, I realized that so many girls stopped coming to school. And every time I would give a test, girls were always the last in class. And I was like, why? I need to find out. I need to get answers. Why should they be the last in class? Why should they not come to stop? Why do they stop coming to school? And in a month, 1 week, they don't come to school because they don't have sanitary pads. And so when I visited some of them, I realized that they were not coming to school because they were getting pregnant. And when I found out more, I realized that so many of them did not know their worth and value. And so just for little things, they would give in. And because they are poor, men take advantage of them. So I started an after-school program teaching girls about their worth and value, helping them to boost their self-esteem, asking women in the community who had made it to come and talk to these girls, going to hospitals and asking nurses to come and teach them about reproductive health. And after a while, things started changing. Fewer girls stopped dropping out of school and their grades improved. So I was like, oh, it's a mindset. Convoy of Hope learned about what we were doing, and Empowered Girls came into being. You see, Empowered Girls teaches girls to be strong, to know their worth and value, to understand that their bodies belong to them. And we tell each girl that she has a right to say no if a man or even a teacher tries to put their hands on them. You see, the idea behind our program is very simple. If you help a girl to understand that she has worth and value, then she can take control of her future. We help girls to know that, to see the opportunities that are available to them. And then we give them the training that they need to embrace these opportunities. We take seminars to schools, and these girls, they're very talented. They do fashion shows, they sing, they dance to express themselves and boost their self-esteem. And I'm telling you, this program works. In the schools where we work, now we see fewer children pregnancies. We see fewer forced marriages. And one of the girls one day came back from home and she was like, They call me mom. Mom, I'm tired. Every time I go home, my mom has another baby. My mom has another baby. We're now 12. I don't know what. She wants to produce the whole village. And I'm like, what did you do about it? She's like, I talked to her and she told me, it's your dad. And when I went to my dad told me, it's your mom. So she's like, I taught my mom about family planning and I took her to the hospital. And now, this holiday, when I went back home, she didn't have another baby. So it's not just teaching the girls, but what they learn, they take it to their communities and teach their own mothers and other girls. And now the girls that we work with, they have value. They see themselves as valuable. And they're growing to be girls that God meant them to be. Girls who will take care of their community. Girls who will take care of their homes and their children and help the new coming generation of young girls to know that they too have worth and value. Girls who will become role models in their communities. And they have dreams. It's always amazing when we start a program in a school, most girls walk with their shoulders down and they are afraid to talk. But just after 1 year or 2 years, these girls are so excited about the future. And they dream of becoming lawyers, doctors, engineers, great people in their communities, people who will change the world. And not only that, we have the Women's Empowerment Program, which trains and teaches and mentors women about business. And you should see these women when they come for the training. They are all so worried. Even when you're teaching them, some of them are absent-minded. And then we train them, we teach them about business, how to do business, and then give them startup capital. After 1 year, only 1 year of business, their lives turn around. They start working in their communities with shoulders squared. You don't have to greet them. They greet you first. And they want to tell you everything about their business. They want to tell you what food they ate last night. Because they're so excited. They're like, I ate 3 meals yesterday. They're so happy because of what the business does to them. It takes them from the streets to having homes. It takes them from being beggars to being business owners. And some of them are so successful that they even hire other women in their communities. And it's so amazing. Yesterday, when I entered into the lobby of this church, I saw a picture of one of the women who happens to be my good friend. She's called Ndotoyai. Ndotoyai got married off at the age of 13 to a man who was 60 years old. And just after 5 years, he died, leaving her with no house and with nothing to take care of the children. So she slept in someone's kitchen for all her life until Convoy of Hope came into her life. And Ndotoyai, after she joined the program, every single day she comes, Kellen, look at me. I'm like, what? Have I gained some weight? Like, what do you mean? I eat 3 meals a day. My children don't fall sick anymore because they get nutritious food. And she's like, you know what? Tomorrow I want you to take me to the town. I'm like, to do what in town? I want to buy a mattress. I've saved up enough money. Now I want to buy a mattress. I'm tired of sleeping on a cow's hide. I'm like, okay. So tomorrow came and I took her to the shop. She told the shopkeeper, I want you to give me the biggest and the best mattress you have in the shop. And the shopkeeper was like, all right. So we bought the mattress. I'm like, you know, you're not going to fit you and your children plus the mattress in my little car. And she's like, I don't care if I suffocate. I just want to sit with my mattress. So that night, she slept on the mattress for her first time. And the next morning, she came so happy. And she's like, you know what? I slept on a mattress, and it feels so good. And she's like, thanks to Convoy of Hope. So I've seen women go from living like dogs, digging through garbage to feed their children, to being human beings with dignity. And all this is because of your help. We couldn't do it without your help. And as Christians, we know God is the greatest giver. He gave his only one son to die for us. And so when people have needs, God cannot come from heaven and provide them directly. He uses you and me to be his hand. And those acts of kindness, of love and caring show the God that is in you. And I just want to say, on behalf of the women in the programs that we work with and the girls, thank you very much. Thank you for all you do to make sure that you put a smile on these women and girls' faces. And may the good Lord bless you so much. Thank you.
This is our war cry. We'll rise up, and this is our time to rise up. This is our war cry. We'll rise up, and this is our time to rise up.
I thought by now I would get it. His love for me is unmeasured. Still feel like I could do better. Was paralyzed by depression, but heaven and earth came together, and you came to my rescue. I used my voice as a weapon on earth like it did in heaven. Yeah, I never handled things too well, but I was made to fly, not to fail. I don't need man's approval when God sent me to bring heaven down for the kids going through hell. Yeah, we gon' make it. I don't care what the world's been saying. It's time to step up, not cave in. The grace he gave us, amazing. A love that can conquer the hatred. But it's up to us, a new generation, to show us love from the ends of the earth to the day he comes.
This is our war cry. We'll rise up, and this is our time to rise up.
I thought by now I would get it. His love for me is unmeasured. Still feel like I could do better. Was paralyzed by depression, but heaven and earth came together, and you came to my rescue. I used my voice as a weapon on earth like it did in heaven. Yeah, I never handled things too well, but I was made to fly, not to fail. I don't need man's approval when God sent me to bring heaven down for the kids going through hell. Yeah, we gon' make it. I don't care what the world's been saying. It's time to step up, not cave in. The grace he gave us, amazing. The love that can conquer the hate. But it's up to us, a new generation, to show us love from the ends of the earth to the day he comes.
This is our war cry. We'll rise up, and this is our time to rise up. This is our war cry. We'll rise up, and this is our time to rise up. This is our war cry. Rise up, and this is our time to rise